Yeah, well, I'm going to tell Andrew Howard.
I'll mention that.
I will say this. I'll tell Andrew Howard, our PR guy who you emailed, that you guys are really fun and really knowledgeable. And that goes a long way. Because he'll
Thank you.
start, if
Really
you start
appreciate
sending,
that.
if you ask some
Thank you,
requests to
Steve.
him, he'll
Thank
get
you
some
so
folks
much.
on. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Let's get it. Pro Fan. Tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam. Sean on the mic, very flat too. Keep you updated, that's what we do. Pro Fan. Tune into the program. Pro Fan. Tune into the program. Pro Fan. Tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam.
Yo, what to do, everybody? It's your boy, John Altidor with Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Back at you with another one with my boys, Vlad, Barry. And today we got one of the hardest working men in the business, and that's reporter for the NFL Network, analyst, studio host, and senior writer for the NFL.com, Steve Wyche. Thank you for coming on, man. How you doing?
Hey, man, I'm so excited to be on with you guys. Barry was like, can we get you on? I was like, yeah, dude, we're good. Are you still coming on? I'm like, yeah, bro, I'm coming on. You make it? I'm here, dude. I told you I'm coming. So now the time has arrived. So we're finally here. I'm excited for it.
This is why we got Barry on, because we know he's gonna hound people, and they're gonna at some point they're like, all right, we gotta go on the show.
Cracks
so
him.
that's it. It's like he applies the pressure, man. That's his job.
Right,
but,
I'm good at that. That's what I do. Right, that's what I do. That's that B Money lifestyle, as I like to say. So I had to drop my line in there. So no, I'm glad that that it works, and it was good enough to be able to get Steve on. So thanks again for coming on, Steve. We appreciate you being here.
Absolutely, man. Obviously, Steve, we're here to talk some ball, right? And one of the biggest news today is Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
Right. Matt Ryan is he's been benched, for the backup quarterback. What's his name? Sam, I believe.
Sam Ehlinger, yeah, kid out of University of Texas. Yeah.
That's it. And I guess they promised him a nice line and a top-notch running game, and that hasn't happened this year. And he hasn't really looked like himself. What else do you know about that situation and how you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, look, all this was exacerbated. He's got a shoulder injury. But the fact that head coach Frank Reich came out and said, look, they had to make the move anyway, that they were gonna switch quarterbacks anyway. It's layered, right? So I used to work in Atlanta, covering the Falcons for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution when Matt Ryan was drafted in 2008. And he came there and he completely took that franchise, which was in the ashes after the Michael Vick dogfighting scandal, and elevated them as sort of their perennial playoff contender starting his rookie year. Of course, he won the MVP a couple of years ago. Falcons went to the Super Bowl. But, when they traded him this year, they were reluctant to trade him, believe it or not. I mean, they didn't really want to trade him. But then they got involved in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. Matt Ryan was like, what? Get me out of here. And so they were willing to take a $43 million salary cap hit to move him. Part of it was, Matt's not going to be our guy regardless. Okay, so let's move him. We'll take that hit. And the other is they probably felt that he wasn't even what he was last year. And so the Colts took him probably under the guise of, we know he's probably a little bit marginalized because of his age and just all the beatings he's taken, but we're going to be able to run the ball. We're going to be able to protect him, and we could have an intermediate, nice little situational passing game. And he has not been able to deliver. I mean, he's taken hits, but he's fumbled the ball like crazy. I mean, it's like it's something that he hasn't done. He looks like Father Time has him by the collar. And this is probably going to cost some people their jobs because, ever since Andrew Luck retired, they haven't been able to figure it out. Phillip Rivers 1 year, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan. I mean, they can't, Jacoby Brissett. They can't figure it out. Like, what's the long-term plan? You can't just keep putting Band-Aids over a torpedo hole, in the ship. And that's what they thought they were going to be able to do. Look, when Matt Ryan got traded, I was like, the Colts are in. They're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Just because I'm thinking of Matt Ryan from 2 or 3 years ago. And he just didn't fit their system. Hasn't played well. Kudos to them for saying we made a mistake. But again, this is one of these things that could end up costing, the coach, the GM, the folks their jobs if they don't make the playoffs. And even if they do, that's Sam Ehlinger or Nick Foles who's taking them there.
Right. Didn't Sam just jump over Nick Foles as the backup? I feel like I saw.
I think when Ryan got hurt, I think he had to miss some snaps earlier this year. But Sam Ehlinger is a guy, they like. He's not a big dude. He's good, adequate enough size, but they like him. Some things that he brings, he's a little bit more mobile. Definitely got some flavor to him, right? Got some flavor to his game. Can move around a little bit. He's got the swagger. So I think they're kind of like, we know what Nick Foles is. He ain't much further behind Matt Ryan, right? Let's change things up. We've seen these guys practice, and one of the things that we always forget when we're watching quarterbacks perform or not perform is how the other 10 dudes in the huddle respond to that quarterback. Right. Like Jake Delhomme years ago for the Carolina Panthers. That dude was not a great quarterback, but his teammates loved him. They would run through a wall for him. Right. And that's hugely important. I think that's what you're seeing in Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett. Those dudes are raising up a little bit with him that they weren't doing for Mitch Trubisky. So I think that probably factored some into it as well. And let's not forget, what did their owner do last week at the league meetings, Jim Irsay? Came off and sounded off a little bit about Daniel Snyder. So he might be feeling a little bit frisky about his club.
Yeah.
Like, okay, guys, get in here and fix this or else. So they might have felt the quickest way to turn things around was to make a move a quarterback.
Yeah, Jim Irsay's not anybody to play with.
No.
It's unfortunate for Matt Ryan, but not unlike him. We've seen, I don't know if it's like a changing of the guard because you see people like Russell Wilson, with the struggling, Aaron Rodgers struggling right now, Tom Brady struggling right now. What is going on with those situations? Is there a changing of the guard right now?
Well, changing of the guard, we kind of say it's already happened, with Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar, Kyler, some of these guys, we can say that's already happened. But again, Father Time is undefeated. You got to have a supporting cast, right? What happened to Ben Roethlisberger as he aged? That supporting cast wasn't as good as it used to be. The offensive line wasn't as good. The running game. So he looked old last year, right? Even Matt Ryan last year in Atlanta, supporting cast wasn't very good. He looked old. He didn't look like the guy. So I think what we're seeing is twofold. And this isn't talked about enough in the NFL to me. Defenses are catching up. Right, we had all these offensive gurus, this and that. Well, the offensive gurus, all the coaches are getting hired from their staffs and they're running the same system. So now defenses are figuring out how. I mean, everyone's running the same thing that Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay are running, right? Matt LaFleur, Mike LaFleur with the Jets, is the OC there. Arthur Smith with the Falcons. They're all running the same system. So defenses are catching up. They're finding these hybrid safety types, like Donovan Wilson and Jaron Kearse with the Cowboys, who can cover the slot, right? They're doing things with the safeties. They got, the Micah Parsons of the world who can do a lot of things. So these offensive geniuses now are kind of like, I got to go back to school because these guys are figuring us out. So I think that's part of what's going on. Aaron Rodgers does not have the supporting cast. What's going on in Tampa, they just don't look like they're playing inspired football. Like these dudes figure, okay, we'll coast, and then we could turn it on. That, in the NFL, that's too late. You don't have 82 games like in the NBA to pull that stuff. So Todd Bowles has either got to kick some dudes in the butt down in Tampa or chalk it up. The Packers, I just don't know. I mean, look at the last month. Bailey Zappi almost beat him in overtime with the Patriots, right? A rook. So then Daniel Jones gets him with the Giants. Okay, no problem with that. The Giants are playing good. Then Zach Wilson, I think in his first or second game back, gets him with the Jets. And they come on, they lose to Taylor Heineke. What's going on? I mean, that's team wide, right? You don't lose to those teams if you're the real deal, right? You win the games you're supposed to win. So I don't really know what's going on with the Packers right now. It's not good. They've got time to get it going, but the Vikings are 5-1. So the good thing for the Buccaneers, they're still in first place in their division at 3-4. It's a terrible division, the NFC South. But I think when you're kind of looking across the board, I mean, Tom Brady was the outlier playing until 45, but now that 45 is looking more like 55. And so again, Father Time is undefeated. He gets everybody. We'll see if he can get it together and see if his teammates can pick him up. I'm not doubting it. We've seen the man do, a million different things, and I think Aaron Rodgers might be able to get it going. But looks like Father Time came knocking on Matt Ryan's door first.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Bailey Zapp, and we're going to get to him in a second because one of us here has the fever here. But wanted to ask about Russell Wilson. Could we see him getting benched? Kind of like
no,
you don't think that would happen?
No, sir. For who? Brett Rippon?
I don't know.
We just saw that. Yeah, they got Brett Rippon. No, it's not going to happen, man. They just guaranteed this man $160 million.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Russ, what's going on there is going to cost some people jobs if they don't turn it around. They've got new ownership that came in after Russell Wilson. Now, they're not going to cut Russell because the salary cap ramifications would just be devastating, right? They can't do that. But they've got to figure something out because it's not as if that team is bereft of talent. You've got Jerry Jeudy, you've got Cortland Sutton, you've got two running backs, even though they don't seem to like Melvin Gordon anymore. They've got a really good defense. I mean, these are all the things that you have in place when you have rookie quarterbacks. They're supposed to help them, right? But Nathaniel Hackett looks like he's starting out a little bit over his head. I mean, you go hire someone to help him with clock management.
Yeah.
It's
fine.
I mean, this is what happens when ownership or the people who do the hiring get caught up in let's hire an offensive guru. Let's hire this dude who gets along well with Aaron Rodgers. Well, honestly, what does Aaron Rodgers have to learn from anybody these days? They forget about all this stuff when you got to lead 53. And so I don't know, but it's also when you talk to some of the guys who Russ used to play with, the Richard Shermans of the world and whatnot, they will tell you this is who Russ has always been in terms of, we saw one of the earlier games when Seattle, I think everybody in the world was like, call the timeout. And Russ is looking to the sideline. And everyone's like, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes, all those dudes would have called the timeout.
Yeah.
But Russ wants to follow directions. He doesn't want to agitate, right? Seriously, when's the last time you've ever seen Russell have a moment like Kyler Wilson just had with Cliff Kingsbury? Never.
Doesn't happen.
He wants everybody to like him. Him and his Dolce & Gabbana entering the stadium. He wants to be that dude. Well, I'll be that dude on the football field and everything else will follow. And I'm not down on Russell. I've seen this dude do it too many times, and he's not old. He's 33. He's 33, 34. He's got plenty of time.
Right.
But just that whole chain of whatever is going on over there is a disaster. And
it's looking like it.
Yeah, and he's feeling some stuff he's never felt before because he was always the guy, the third-round pick who took over for Matt Flynn, who they paid all that money to, and boom, 2 or 3 years later in their Super Bowl. It ain't going well right now, man. So he's got a lot of things to work through. He's coming back from that hamstring injury. They say he's going to play next week. We'll see, man. They just as a team, it doesn't look good. And if they don't win, I mean, ownership will blow that coaching staff out.
Well, we can all agree that it's been a strange NFL season, and especially this week's been weird. Just I don't even know what's going on. But one of the teams that really impresses me is Seattle with Geno Smith. How is that even happening? Like, I thought Geno Smith was done. I thought
they wrote him off. He didn't write back.
I thought by this point he would have been a certified backup and never see a starting job ever again. And now he's thriving. I mean, he's playing better than Russell Wilson. What is going on over there?
This is the rare occasion when you see a rebirth of a career at that position, right? You know, you see Marcus Mariota, he's doing okay down in Atlanta, but they don't ask him to throw the ball more than 18 times a game, right? They have a running offense. Whereas Geno, he's throwing it between 27 and 30 times a game. He's completing like 68, 69% of his passes at all the different levels. The offensive line is playing well. This has been an absolute masterpiece by what John Schneider and Pete Carroll have done. They're playing 5 rookies, right? 2 in the secondary, 2 on the offensive line, and running back Kenneth Walker. So they nailed the draft. They're doing things philosophically, the same thing they've always done. We're going to use the running game to set things up in the finish. We're going to have hyper aggressive, hyper takeaway guys on defense. But more than anything, we're going to play the best players. Like how Russell Wilson got his job as a 3rd round pick after they just signed Matt Flynn to all this free agent money. So when you have a culture that the best dudes have earned the spot, not been granted position, that establishes something. So now you have the offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, being pretty creative. I mean, it's not the simple kind of power run game they ran with Marshawn Lynch, right? It's a pretty creative run game. Again, you know, Shane Waldron's a Sean McVay protege. But these guys on the defense, man. I mean, these DBs, Tariq Woolen. It's like 6'3", 6'4". I mean, he's Sherman. He's Richard Sherman, but he's big.
Yeah.
Sherman's like 6'3". Same type of stuff going on. And now they're believing. I mean, I think the Chargers' victory in LA kind of made us all take notice because the Seahawks really, if you want to be this guy, hadn't beaten anybody.
Yeah.
Well, they just beat a pretty good team on that team's home field on both sides of the ball. Last 2 weeks, their defense has played really well. The Chargers didn't help themselves because they played the 31st worst rushing defense and ran the ball 12 times. 3 if you include Justin Herbert scrambles. But I give Seattle all props. I mean, they play the Giants this week in Seattle. That's going to be, you know, who would have thought that would be the game of the week, you know, when they made the schedule, you know, 4 or 5 months ago. But that could end up being a heck of a game.
Yeah, I mean, I've been very impressed. I think, like you said, they beat the Chargers. I think that's what caught my attention. I had them on fantasy as my defense, and I dropped them because I was, they're about to play the Chargers. All right, let me drop Seattle, and I mean, they played a really good game. So
who'd you pick up?
I'm gonna get laughed at. The Dolphins.
Oh God!
No, they helped
they didn't do bad. They didn't do bad.
No, you're good.
They didn't do bad, but I just felt like I should have.
They're like 10 points and 2 or 3 picks.
Yeah, I know.
That's better than what the Seahawks did. No, you're good, bro. Don't feel bad.
But I was still impressed by Seattle just winning that game in general. I was just very impressed, and
yeah,
I don't know. I think the coach over there in Seattle, Pete Carroll, I think he's just doing a phenomenal job this year with this team. I mean, we're in Boston and we have a big game tonight. I mean, not a big game, but
they're
I think
big,
the only game. The only game.
17 of them.
Yeah, the only game today, and it's a nationally televised game, and we have not really a quarterback controversy, but definitely a lot of chatter around the quarterback position and who's gonna start. And I mean, report says that Mike Jones is gonna start, but there's also some chatter about Zappy starting. What's your take on what's going on with that?
Bill Belichick keeping us guessing as to who's going to start a quarterback? He didn't have to do that for 17 years. But no, I mean, look, when Mac Jones is healthy, he's going to be the starter. Bailey Zappi I think has been fantastic. He has really acquitted himself. I mean, imagine coming in at Lambeau Field and doing what he did and getting the Packers into overtime and playing pretty well after that. It says something about his coachability, his learning acumen. You know, we saw the skills. The dude had 62 touchdowns last season at Western Kentucky. So you know he can put the ball where it needs to be. And you're starting to hear names of receivers you haven't heard before because he's throwing them open.
Right.
But I think Mac Jones is the guy who's so respected in that building. You know, we talked about with the other 10 guys in the huddle and the other 52 on the team. Think about the guys in that position. And I just think Mac Jones curries such favor with his teammates that once he's healthy, he'll be the guy. Now, in terms of who's starting against the Bears, you know, we'll see. It all depends on, you know, Mac Jones' ability to run around a little bit. I mean, having that high ankle sprain is no joke. I think it sounds like he's coming back from it much quicker than I thought he would because it looked bad at the time. But if not, you know, Bailey Zappi's in there and they're playing the Bears, you know, for as much as you want to say about it, that Bears defense is not bad. So, and they're going to compete. So, you know, we'll see. Again, but once Mac Jones is healthy, because suppose Bailey Zappi goes out and hits 5 touchdowns tonight, what are people going to say? He's against the Bears.
The whole Massachusetts is gonna have a 103 degrees fever.
Come on, man.
If he throws 5 touchdowns, it's gonna be a lot of chatter around the quarterback position.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's Zappy fever, man. I don't know if you know about
All
that.
right,
Zappy
go ahead.
fever,
Go ahead.
Steve.
Go ahead. You guys can holler at me next week and let me know. And then what? Then they're gonna talk about trading Mac Jones in the offseason, right?
Oh, they're already doing that. They're already talking about it.
Yeah, that's already
Like,
been
like,
all right,
what?
yeah.
talked about.
Like, this is
All right,
crazy.
I'm done. Okay.
Steve, wanted to ask you. So I know people have been, you know, writing off, you know, Bill Belichick, you know, particularly with the last, you know, few years.
Whoever's written off Bill Belichick, if you can give me a name, who's writing off that dude? He's the GOAT.
I know it's as crazy as it sounds. People have been writing him off and, you know, really questioning his decisions that he's made, particularly with the coaching staff, particularly with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, as, you know, coaches now with the offense when previously they weren't coaches with the offense. So I just wanted to ask you, what do you think about, you know, the coaching decisions that he's made to this point and, you know, and how that's, you know, gone so far? Like, what are you seeing, you know, with, you know, with the coaching staff of the Patriots?
Yeah, that's a great question because you see so many of these gifted, offensive-minded coaches around the league, especially the black coaches who aren't getting opportunities. And, you know, when he goes and hires Joe Judge, special teams coordinator, who didn't work out as a head coach of the Giants, and then Matt Patricia, defensive coach, who didn't work out in Detroit, and puts him in charge of his offense. First off, people kind of like, okay, here we go again when it comes to the black coaches. They, you know, it's clear. Look, as a defensive-minded coach, you know what offenses are trying to do, right? Nobody has his coaches more prepared than Bill Belichick. He is light years ahead of everybody else. And you hear folks who've worked in the building with him, his strategy, his techniques to preparation are just, he could probably be a great general in the Army, you know, and defeat some of the most brilliant-minded tacticians because of his different ways to approach talent and things like that. But this is one where people are still kind of waiting to see. But I do think, you know, we just talked about Bailey Zappi. I mean, player development is very hard to do in the NFL because you don't have enough time with guys. In college, you have a lot of time to develop guys. And the fact that they got him up to speed the way they have says a lot. The offense is not a catastrophe, right? It looked like it was going to be early on, but they're coming around. We can look back 10 years ago to the Patriots after the first 4 or 5 games and say the same thing. How many times when they started 1-3 or 2-2 or 2-3, we're like, oh, here's the end. Next thing you know, they're in the Super Bowl. So this is almost a pattern of what they've done. So like I was kind of alluding to, like to second guess Bill Belichick is the hardest thing in the world because he's always found a way without having a boatload of Pro Bowl players. You got Gronk, you got Tom Brady, Coach Seymour, Coach Ty Law. Not a whole lot of other dudes are going to the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Slater, special teams ace. But what he is able to do to mentally convince guys that it is about the team. I mean, look what's happening at running back. Damon Harris goes down, Ramondre Stevenson comes in and balls out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that just goes to show the culture and the fact that Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, I mean, we're just a continuation of the head coach. So, as long as those guys can keep their egos in check, because one thing, once you've been a head coach, it is humbling to get fired. But you can always look at some of these cats who think they know more than you, like, hey, I was the head coach. So as long as these cats keep their egos in check, which I think Bill will do a good job of doing, they're going to continue to improve. So they've had a learning curve. They've got to get through it. But we can armchair quarterback or second guess whatever the day after. But I'm just of the belief that until Bill Belichick just completely falls on his face, he is still the guy. His decisions optically be damned. He still knows what he's doing more than most of these folks, in the NFL.
No, certainly. I totally agree with that. I think that he definitely knows what he's doing and is proving that on countless amount of occasions, year in and year out, that, he's made, more times than not, really good decisions and bad decisions. Yeah, he has his bad decisions that he's, made, in the past. Every coach has had that, but for the most part, he's made, some pretty good, decisions as far as, running this Patriot football team. Now, the next question I wanted to ask you was, how do you think the Patriots will fare this season as far as, chances of making the playoffs, particularly with the tough schedule that they have after the bye week and in the second half of the season? So do you see them as a, playoff team in the AFC? What are your thoughts
being
on
in
that?
last place?
It's tough. I mean, look, the Bills and Dolphins are for real in the division. Okay. In the North, I think Cincinnati and Baltimore, one's going to win the division. One's probably going to be a wild card. The West is not what we thought it was going to be. I do think the Raiders are about to go on a run. Their schedule's pretty light, and even though they've only got 2 wins right now, they've got an opportunity to rip off their next 5 and get back into the hunt. Chiefs clearly are the class of the West. And in the South, there's going to be no wild card team coming out of there. Right now, it's Tennessee, probably, and that's it. So there's the possibility. I mean, let's say Miami slips, or let's say one of those teams like the Raiders don't pan out. You got 3 wildcard teams. So I mean, look, if they keep playing, if they keep improving, I'll say that they've got a shot. Okay, but that division, I mean, the Jets look like they're for real. But those injuries they had today are really crippling. Losing Breece Hall, losing their starting offensive lineman, for the season. Those are pretty devastating injuries. But they've got to figure out again, the quarterback situation, since it's, Bailey Zappi's the star now, and they want to trade Mac Jones, right? But I think it's going to be hard. I think they're going to be on the outside looking in, but they're not going to be, 5 or 6 win team. They're going to be closer to 500, making a push in that final week.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can make that push for sure. We got you on here for a couple of minutes left here, Steve. I think, I was watching some stuff on you, and you were on a show, and you were talking about, being at Howard and how, some of your teachers took you under their wings and brought you to places like USA Today, along with some other people in the industry as well. We love what you do. We love watching you on the NFL Network. What are some advice you have for people trying to, like following your footsteps, so to speak?
Yeah, the key thing, I mean, the old saying is not necessarily what you know, it's who you know is important. It is hugely important. When, like you just talked about, when I was a senior at Howard, I was the editor of, we had 2 student newspapers. I was the editor of one of them. And, teachers saw my grind. And, a couple of them would take me over to USA Today, or they would take me to go meet people. And I had one teacher, Dr. Barbara Hines, who got me to work at the Washington Post. The Washington Post to hire 12 student journalists to cover high school football and basketball games. So getting in that newsroom and being around Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser, David Aldridge, and people like that, and establishing relationships with them was great. And then having some work on it that said the Washington Post really helped. That's not always the easiest thing to do now, is to get these internships. I will say, I think some companies in this moment are trying very hard to find diverse candidates, because their newsrooms and whatnot are not diverse. You go to any press box, in the NFL press box, any given Sunday, and of the 80 people there, you might see 7 or 8 of color, right? So if you can't get internships at your newspaper, your local TV station, your regional sports network, or look, these gambling sites, these gambling networks are coming up all over the place, and that's kind of the new thing, is these gambling networks. Those are opportunities, but you've got to go to some of these functions, some of these seminars, National Association of Black Journalists, National Association of Hispanic Journalists, Native American Journalists Association, Asian American Journalists Association. You got to go to some of those seminars because all these companies are there showcase themselves. I work with a thing called the Black Sports Business Summit. We launched it last year in Atlanta, and it was a massive success. ESPN is the title sponsor to that. The number of people they're hiring and looking for talent is there. And all it takes, seriously, is to have a good reel, right? If you're on TV, a good reel of you doing different things, be it reporting, analyst, podcasting, producing, right? And then you sit down and have an interview with someone. They might be like, I really want to keep an eye on that person, or let's bring this person in. Let's see what we can do with this person, because there's so many different worlds of media now. Like I talked about, podcasting, production, the social media element of everything is insane. I mean, there are people there just hiring simply to do social media posts. Like, to be at a football game, you're interviewing people walking off the field. You see all these videos of guys walking off the field. Yeah, I told you we were going to do it, blah, blah. Those are whole social media departments that networks and everybody have. So if you got social media game, everyone, King Josiah Johnson is the man, right, on Twitter. Son of Marcus Johnson, NBA player. He got all these funny GIFs and memes to the point where once LeBron and all these guys started retweeting it, like, man, you're the dude. This dude's like the man now. He's got millions of followers. He's getting paid all this money. So, there are those ways, but, just kind of for the grassroots, bare knuckle effort, go to some of these seminars, got to get the internship. You have got to meet people. Without me having Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser, these people to vouch for me, when I was younger, I wouldn't be where I am. Their word carried a lot of weight. And so once I got in the door, it was on. Nobody's going to outwork me. Nobody's going to be more professional than me. Nobody was going to treat people more fairly than me, whether they're my coworkers or the subjects I'm reporting on. Even though they might not like what I'm saying, it's going to be fair. And that's carried me a long way. I mean, the worst thing you can do, one of the best pieces of advice I can give you, is do not burn a bridge. Do not leave one place talking smack about the other place. Or when you go to interview someplace, do not talk bad about where you're working. Because one thing about this industry, people know each other. Mm-hmm. If you're bad mouthing somebody here, it's going to get back to somebody there, and then you're done. You're through. The grapevine is this is a high maintenance person or a complainer, and you're done.
I think that was well said. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you, Steve, for that advice. Appreciate it.
Hey, Vlad, man, when are you gonna get me the Bailey Zappi jersey though? Cause I really, you gotta hook me up. I'm an XL.
I have to hook you up. No, Barry got
Barry got the fever.
So he's gonna hook you
Oh,
up.
Barry's got the
Yeah. He's the feverish
Yeah, it
guy
was
over
me.
here.
It's me. I do.
Okay.
I got the zappy fever, so
All right.
I'll be the guy that hooks you up with the jersey.
Okay, when you break the news that they're going to do with him like how they did Jimmy Garoppolo and trade him to the Colts next year for 2 second-round draft picks, let me know.
All right, sounds good. I'll get back to you when that happens, if that ends up being the case. Yeah, hopefully they don't move him that soon. But if it happens, they'll definitely talk. We'll see how much longer he ends up being a Patriot for.
There you go.
But if he does
Steve.
play well with the Patriots, I'll definitely I'll remember that you said that request for the jersey. I'll
Be on it, bro.
definitely remember.
Be on collector's item.
Steve,
no doubt.
Thank you so much for coming on, and we really appreciate you and your time, and sharing your knowledge with us. Hopefully you can come back with us sometime in the future. But thanks again for coming on and joining Pro Fan Sports. You have a good one, man.
Oh, anytime. You guys are fantastic, and thank you so much for having me, man. Appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Steve, for coming on. Appreciate it. It was great meeting you.
That was awesome.
That
man.
was awesome. It was. That was dope.
I think maybe we know what we're doing a little bit. You guys heard it.
So.
From Steve Wyche. Guy's been working at NFL Network since 2008, man. So he's big time. So if you want to keep up with Steve Wyche, make sure you are following him on social media. On Twitter, it's actually Wyche89, WYCHE 89 on Twitter. The guy, one of the hardest working men in show business, and make sure you're following him. Make sure you're following us. We're at Pro Fan Sports on everything except for Instagram, and that's ProFans_sports. We drop every single week. Make sure you're liking, subscribing especially to the channel. As always, thank you for the support and tuning in to our episode. So until the next episode, man, we out of here.
Peace out. Have a good week, everyone. See y'all next week. Thanks for watching.